You leave the clicker up here. There we go. All right, we're going to talk about why salespeople fail, because this is one of the areas that, usually is the number one thing you see. It's like people, we were talking about failure here for a minute here. Number one reason, in my opinion, is features and benefits. I see people come in and they start talking about features and benefits. They start pouring out all the benefits of their product. It's what I call product puke. They just come in and just go blah and give it all to them. And they don't care because they never ask any questions to learn out what they really need. Now, it is about benefits, but it's about benefits to them. We were working with a friend who had worked for a big machinery manufacturing firm, and they spent $5 million developing this building to train their salespeople, except they didn't teach any soft skills. All they taught was about their equipment. So they were great on their equipment. They could answer all the questions, but they never asked what the customer wanted. We were talking to a customer, and he said, can I get a piece of equipment that can cut a trench this wide? Is what he really wanted. But they said, well, our piece of equipment will go this much further in a day than another piece of equipment. He didn't care about that. He needed something that was this wide. But they never asked, so they lost the sale. See, that's when people are selling features and benefits, well, here's the features of my product, it goes further. Well, that's not what the customer wanted. You have to find out what the customer was looking for. They talk too much. Okay? People talk too much. They say more than they should be saying. They just go out and talk and talk and talk and talk. I just hired a new salesman for one of my other businesses, and we've been going out and talking to people, and he has this problem that as soon as they stop talking, he wants to talk. And what I've learned is to love the silence. That's the number one thing that I've learned in sales, is being an I personality, as you guys have already been going through the personalities and learning that, is being an I hated silence. If there was dead space, I was filling it. So if the other guy stopped talking and things got paused, I was going to fill that time. So what I had to learn to do was love the silence. Because now I love the silence, because I know whoever breaks, that's what I'm going to get the pearls. That's where I'm going to get the great information. Because when I'm silent and they say something, that's when I'm going to get great information. So they talk too much. Telling is not selling. That's what sums this whole thing up. Everybody's always said, here's what we have, here's what we do, yada, yada, yada. That's not what it's about. It's what do you need? I was in a sales meeting last week. We did a lunch, for this group. And we're out there doing his lunch. We got like 12 people around the table. And the guy who's obviously the guy in charge looks at us and says, well, why should we change to you from our current vendor? And I said to him, well, that's a good question. Let me ask you, what is it that your current vendors are not doing that you feel that there's a need for? And he said, well, we're looking for a one-stop shop that we don't have to, go running around and finding all different people, because some people do AV, but then they don't do fireworks, and they don't do this, and they don't do that. And I said, if we don't do it, I know where to find it. I've been in the industry long enough, I know where the bodies are buried. If you call me and I don't know, if I don't have it, I know where to find it. Or I'll find out where to find it. So that, he said, well, that's what we're looking for. I said, great. Then we're gonna have a nice relationship together. But see, he thought he was going to put me back because he was obviously a D, so he's, said, well, why should we change to you? The sandwiches were just broken out, you know what I mean? And he had to file the first salvo, so I had to answer him back right away. And so I asked a question to him. Telling is not selling. We didn't come in with a whole presentation and show him everything we can do. I had the pictures there. When we talked about some things, I brought them out later, but I wasn't there to do a presentation. I was there to sell. So you have to ask yourself, are you there to do a presentation, or are you there to make some money? Because I want to fill a need. And if I don't ask questions, I can't do it. So what is it? We don't want to talk too much. Telling is not selling. And here's something that I just heard on the news the other night. I was listening to an interview with Barack Obama, and he said, all the mistakes that I have made have been from talking too much and not listening. Just a couple of weeks ago. We're following the whole thing. We're all, how could you not see what's going on in politics right now? So I'm not saying Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. But interesting comment. All the mistakes he's made have been from talking too much, and not listening is the last piece, which is kind of interesting. So the not listening is not on your sheets there, so I apologize, I made a mistake. So here's the other thing I'll throw out there, because they were talking about mistakes before. What I will say to you is, never say I'm sorry, but apologize as quickly as you can. But never use the words I'm sorry. Because when you say I'm sorry, that is like, suddenly you take on that persona. Well, I'm sorry. You bet you are, buddy. So I don't say I'm sorry. I say I apologize for that. And what can I do to earn the trust? What can we do to fix it? Where do we go from here? So I want to apologize, but I don't want to say I'm sorry. Don't use those words. You attract that negative thing on you. So don't use the word I'm sorry, use I apologize. Okay. Selling is listening. Okay, how do I listen? Selling is listening. Selling is listening. How do I listen? It's very simple. We ask. I ask questions. I don't come in and do a presentation. I don't come in to just, here's all this great stuff that we can do. I come in and fill a need. We went around to do all these sales in the last couple of weeks, and I went to all these different meeting planners and stuff, and I'm thinking in my mind, I want to do this because this is what we do. They all had people that did this. What they wanted to know is, could we do fireworks? Could we do this? Could we do this? Could we do that? That's what they were looking for. So yes, I can do that, and guess what I get too? The stuff I wanted. You follow me? So if I went in just to sell what I'm selling, now I'm just competing toe-to-toe with someone else they already have, servicing them. So now I'm going to go out for what they need, and I get the part I want too. Because maybe I don't make as much money on that because I have to sub it out, but at least I'm out there getting it because I'm asking. And then when you ask, you need to listen. And you need to ask, and you need to listen. Don't respond immediately, because that's not necessarily what the real problem is. We'll learn that as we go on here a little bit. Things you learn is you're asking questions. You're going to learn the customer's behavior. We've been talking about behaviors here. Okay, we're going to learn their behavior. Okay, we already know if they're outgoing or reserved. Okay, if they're outgoing or reserved, we need to know that. And as Joe said before, that's the most important thing you need to know. Because if they're reserved, I need to slow down a little bit. Especially being an I need to slow down a little bit because I can overpower people. So I had to learn to be quiet and ask questions. It's funny, I just had a phone conversation with a guy that was a referral from someone else about doing some teaching, and he called me and talked to me, and 35 minutes later he goes, boy, you're a great listener. And I said, thanks. He said, well, how do I send you an email? And I said, well, send it to thelisteningguy.com. And he started laughing, and I went, no, I'm serious. And he goes, well, he said, you definitely are a man of your word. You are what you advertise. Because I was listening to him for 35 minutes, and he never broke. It was kind of like, I'm waiting for him to breathe, you know what I'm saying? And he just keeps going. So here's the other thing I'll say. Eyes, this is for you guys more than anybody else, because I am one, so I understand. Listening is not waiting for the other person to stop talking so you can talk. Okay. That's not listening, okay? That's not listening. Listening is really listening, trying to gain some information. Because as I said, the silence thing for me was the number one thing. When I learned to be silent, oh my God, did I start to learn information about other people. I learned information about other people I didn't want to know. People start talking about their relationships, and there's this and there's that. It's like, as there's silence, people want to fill it. Don't be the one to fill it. Let them fill it, because you'll find out inside information. They'll also tell you things about their company. Then, of course, we want to know if they're task-oriented or people-oriented, so we can kind of assess what they are. And here's what I found out is, when I listen, they tell me what they are. I don't have to ask, well, do you consider yourself this? I just listen. I was talking to a guy, over at Disney who's working on the parade floats. I always ask a couple of questions when I meet new people, which is, how long you been doing this, and how'd you get your start? In whatever they do. And people love to tell you. People love to talk about themselves. Ask them questions, get them started. Usually you go to a chamber meeting and it's like, hey, this is what I do, this is what I'm looking for, and enough about me, tell me what you like about me. That's the way it is in a chamber meeting, right? I mean, they just want to talk about themselves. They don't really want to learn about you. That's why I get cards and I call them later. But anyway, so that's the way it is. So I'm talking to this guy, and I said to him, well, I said, tell me what you do here. He said, well, I've been working here in engineering. He said, and then I was the one that created the color code system. He said, because we were tired of all the floats all being made by different people, that they were all different color codes. So he said, I created a color code system that's Disney worldwide, and all 3 parks now have adopted this color code system so that all the floats are the same. What personality do you think he is? Okay, I got a C on my hands. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to ask. I asked questions, and guess what? They tell me. You can tell right away when you're talking to people what they are. When I talk to, eyes are the easiest to recognize, not only because I am one, because they usually talk about people. They're excited, and they talk about people. Oh, I was just doing this, and I was just over here with Henry Winkler, and I was over here talking to this person, I was over here doing this. They start talking, and they talk about people. It's usually easy to recognize. They're outgoing in people, right? So it's easy if you just ask some of the right questions. We won't go into some of the DISC, because you guys have been really going through that. On what the different ones are, so I'll just skip right through that. But the things you learn is, first of all, which one they are. So you know how to approach them. You know what to do with them. It's not just, okay. I'm not sure, and I'm going to pitch my pitch and hope I hit. I used to close, I thought I was pretty good closing 30%. As soon as I learned to listen, I was doubling my closure ratios immediately, right off the bat, because I was closing the C's, which I was never closing before. Because I was walking in, I'm an I. What do most people do that are in sales? We sell in our personality. So I'm an I. I needed to know what companies other people did stuff for. So I would walk in and say, hey, we did work for Disney, Marriott, your CSX, we do all this stuff. And the D's are over here going, well, how does this help me reach my goal? I don't care what you did for Disney. What can you do for me? Okay, and I'm selling as an I, and the I's are loving it, but the D's, not so much. The C's, not at all. Because they don't give a rip who I'm talking to or how else I've done it for, because they want to know more details. Okay, so I had to learn that. When I learned that, boy, that really changed my